Hello everyone, this is Warhawk Beyond 2040 and welcome to another edition of the Superman and Lois Season 2 review series. And today I am going to be talking about episode 8, Into Oblivion, which I have just finished watching. And this episode was pretty good. I felt it was very solid and very enjoyable to watch, but at the same time, I'm not going to lie, this episode was a little bit weak compared to the previous one. But that's not me saying that this episode was terrible. As I said, it was still very good. But I'm not going to lie, I did miss Bizarro just a little bit because I felt what the show did with Bizarro was very good, and I thought the way they handled Bizarro was very well done because, with the exception of Smallville and maybe animation up to a point, most versions of Bizarro, the very few that we've had in the media, have been portrayed as pretty silly. So when they did what they did with Bizarro, I was very impressed, and I felt that the first half of season 2 was just absolutely fantastic. The build-up, the reveal, everything about Bizarro, I thought they did a fantastic job. So yeah, he was kind of missed in this one. And as I said, this episode, compared to the first one, was pretty weak, but not weak to the point where it was bad, because it was still good. But I just thought it was a little bit weak, but not much. So I'm going to give a quick recap of what's happened so far, and then we're going to get straight into talking about episode 8. So basically, what happened was General Anderson has got hold of some XK inhaler, and it gave him super abilities, and he pretty much took out Bizarro and killed him. And we also saw that Anderson met up with Ali, who's got this pendant that Bizarro had, which allows people to cross over to the other side, which ties into what happened with Lois Lane's sister Lucy. And it looked like at the end of episode 7 that Ali and Anderson are going to be working together, or there's some sort of weird alliance, because they met up with each other just before episode 7 finished. And we saw the return of Morgan Edge. He more or less was like a unlikely ally. He came through and helped Superman, but he was also returned back to his holding cell. So this pretty much left the door open for Morgan Edge to return, and this also set up for episode 8. And as I said, this episode pretty much picks up where we left off from the end of episode 7. And as I said, it was pretty good, but not as good as episode 7. So let's not waste any more time. Let's just get straight into it. Let's talk about episode 8, Into Oblivion. So this episode starts off with Natalie Henry Irons. Now, as we all know, Natalie Henry Irons is the daughter of John Henry Irons, and she came to this Earth at the end of season 1. So we've kind of been seeing her trying to adjust living on this Earth. She's living with the Kents, and she's having to deal with the fact that she's living in Superman's house, even though it's not the Superman she knows, because on her Earth, a rogue Superman clad in black basically murdered her mother, Lois Lane, on their Earth. So she's been more or less trying to get to grips with what's happened to her mum, and she's trying to adjust to being on this new world. And what we see here is a quick flashback of Natalie in her ship trying to look for her dad, and she ends up in hibernation / suspended animation for about 6 months. And it cuts to the present, where we see John Henry Irons wakes up from his coma because, if you recall, a couple of episodes back, Bizarro more or less took out John Henry Irons and put him in hospital. So he's out of his coma. Obviously, he suffered some minor head trauma, so he thinks that Lois is his Lois from his Earth. So a little bit of an awkward moment in that scene, but very well executed at the same time. We also see General Sam Lane has discovered that Anderson stole the pendants while Lucy has been sending cryptic goodbyes. And we see Chrissy joins Anderson and Ali's cult in the mines, where they open the portal to the inverse world. Now, obviously, we've been seeing through the past couple of episodes, Ali has this pendant which allows people to basically cross over to the other side. And we see lots of people are getting sucked into this portal. Chrissy is almost sucked in, and Superman comes to the rescue. And we see Anderson steals the pendants, and Lucy is nowhere to be seen or found. And also in this episode, we see Jordan learns the identity of who Jonathan has been protecting, because as we all remember, in the last episode, he got busted for holding XK inhalers, which is like a form of drug which gives people special powers on a Superman level. So he finally learns the truth, and we learn more that Candace owes a guy money for this XK inhaler. And we see like a little fight here with Jordan and this dealer, which I thought was pretty good. And I'm very curious to know who they're trying to push to be the new Superboy, Jonathan or Jordan. It would kind of make more sense if it's Jordan, because he's got the powers, and Jonathan only got the powers through the inhaler. But I'm curious to know who's going to actually be Superboy. Or maybe there won't be a Superboy in the show. Personally, I would always prefer if Superboy is Connor Kent, because that's who the current Superboy is. But we'll see, really. So we see Jordan defends Jonathan and Candace from this dealer, and Jordan, of course, skips on meeting Sarah. And also, in this episode, we see Lucy arrives at Lois'S door and states that she stayed behind. More on that in a moment. And we see Sam brings her to her apartment, and she gets knocked out and steals his DoD key card for Ali. And that's how this episode ends. And there wasn't really much of Superman. I mean, when we did get Superman, it was awesome. But I kind of felt that there was a little bit more on the drama side, which was okay for the most part, as long as it doesn't overshadow Superman and Lois. But overall, I thought this episode was pretty decent. I quite enjoyed it for what it was. And, we also see in this episode, Natalie forgives Clark, and Clark offers her and John Henry Irons a new place to live in, because we got a scene earlier in the episode with John Henry and Clark says, well, what can I do to win her over? Because as far as she's concerned, she just sees the face of a guy who killed her mother. And John says, just give her time. She'll come round eventually. But overall, I thought this was a good episode. Little bit weak compared to episode 7, but as I said, it doesn't take away the fact that this was still very enjoyable. So that's going to be it from me. I'm going to wrap this up now. What was your thoughts on this episode? Did you enjoy it? What did you think of Lucy stealing the DoD card from Sam for Ali? What plans does she have for the DoD? And also, what is over on the other side? Is it Bizarro World, or is it something completely different? And also, does it look like Ali is becoming the main villain for this show or for this season? Or do you think she'll be part of a much bigger picture and working for a much bigger villain? You know what to do, guys. Hit the like button, hit the subscribe button, leave your thoughts and comments down below. And I will see all of you next time for another edition of the Superman and Lois Season 2 review series, where I am going to be talking about episode 9, which I am very much looking forward to talking about, and hopefully it might be a little bit stronger than this one. But time will tell, really, and hopefully we'll get to learn more about this mysterious inverse world. So until next time, take care everybody, and stay safe, and once again, as always, much appreciated. Thanks for listening.